The envelope had no return address. It's just my name, handwritten in red marker, left on my front step sometime before 6 in the morning. Inside was a USB drive and a single note card that said, "You were the last person he trusted. You need to see this." No signature, no explanation. It's just those 2 sentences and a cheap plastic drive that I held in my palm for almost 10 minutes before I could bring myself to plug it in. That was 3 weeks ago. Marcus has been missing for 32 days now. I moved into the house on Caldwell Drive in September. Marcus Reyes was already there, had lived next door for almost 4 years. He was quiet, mid-40s, worked nights at a water treatment plant about 20 miles out of town. We weren't close. We waved at each other across our driveways. Sometimes he'd leave tomatoes from his garden on my porch, the big ugly heirlooms that actually tasted like something. I'd leave him a 6-pack in return. That was the whole relationship. The first time I noticed something was wrong was a Tuesday in early November. I was pulling trash cans back from the curb around 7 in the evening, and Marcus was standing on his front lawn just staring at the street. Not at anything specific, just staring. He had his work boots on like he was about to leave, but his truck was still in the driveway. His arms were at his sides. He didn't blink when I said his name. When he finally looked at me, he laughed like I'd startled him, said he was just tired. I believed him. I went inside. I made dinner. I forgot about it. That was my first mistake. He knocked on my door at 11:15 on a Wednesday night. I almost didn't answer because I'd already turned all the lights off. But I could see his shape through the frosted glass panel beside my door, and I recognized the outline of him. Stocky, short-sleeved, even in cold weather. When I opened the door, he looked bad. Not sick exactly, just hollowed out, like someone had removed something from behind his eyes. "You ever feel like somebody's watching you?" he said. No hello, no preamble, just that. Standing on my porch with his hands shoved in his jacket pockets. I told him I didn't know. I asked if everything was okay. He looked past me into my house for a second, just a quick scan, like he was checking something, and then back at me. "Probably nothing," he said. "Sorry to bother you." And he went back inside. I stood there in my doorway for probably 30 seconds after he left, watching his porch light flick back on, watching his silhouette move past his front window. I told myself he was stressed. Night shifts do things to people. Sleep deprivation makes you paranoid. I'd read that somewhere. Should have asked more questions. I should have stayed out there and talked to him. Instead, I went back to bed. He texted me at 2:47 a.m. We de-swapped numbers once in case of emergencies. A pipe had burst on his side of the property line the previous winter, but he'd never actually used them before. My phone was face up on my nightstand, and the screen lit up the ceiling enough to wake me. The message said, "Do you have a security camera on the back of your house?" I texted back the next morning. Told him no, just the doorbell cam on the front. Didn't respond. When I looked out my kitchen window toward his yard that afternoon, I saw he'd put up 2 new cameras himself, one angled at his back fence. One pointed toward the alley that ran behind our properties. Brand new, still had the plastic wrap on the mounts. 3 days later, there were 2 more, pointing in opposite directions from his roofline. I told myself he'd had a break-in scare. People put up cameras after that, totally normal. But there had been no break-in. I would have heard something, would have seen police cars. There was nothing. I heard his truck leave at 10 p.m. the night before he vanished. That was normal. His shift started at 11. I heard it come back at around 6:40 a.m. based on when my alarm went off, and the sound woke me up for just a second before I drifted back to sleep. He never went inside. That's what the footage showed me. That's what was on the USB drive. His own camera, the one on the roofline, angled down at his driveway, recorded him pulling in that morning. He walked around to the passenger side and just stood there, facing the house, completely still. For 4 minutes and 11 seconds, he stood in his own driveway in the early morning dark, facing his own front door. Then he looked up, directly at the camera, like he knew exactly where it was. Like he was leaving a message, and he turned around, and he walked back out of frame toward the street. He hasn't been seen since. His sister filed the missing persons report. She's the one who found the cameras still running. She's the one who pulled the footage, and she decided I was the person who needed to see it. Maybe because I was closest. Maybe because Marcus had mentioned me. I never got a chance to ask before she stopped returning my calls. The police took a copy of the footage. They told me there was nothing to indicate a crime, no signs of a struggle, nothing stolen. His phone was sitting on his kitchen counter, plugged in to charge. His wallet was on the table. His passport was in his desk drawer. People leave, they said. People walk away from their lives sometimes. It happens. I didn't tell the detective about the other thing on the drive. I don't know why. Maybe because I wasn't sure what it meant. Maybe because saying it out loud would make it more real than I was ready for. There were 6 nights of footage from the alley camera. 6 nights, starting about 2 weeks before Marcus disappeared. And on every single night, every one, there was a figure standing at the far end of the alley. Right. At the edge of the camera's range, just barely visible in the ambient light from the street. Standing still. Always between 2 and 4 in the morning. Always facing Marcus's house. Some nights for 20 minutes, some nights for over 2 hours. The last night of footage, the night before Marcus vanished, the figure walked closer than it ever had before. Close enough that I could see it was a real person, not a trash can or a trick of the light. Close enough that when I paused the video and leaned toward my screen, I could make out a face. I don't know who it is. I've never seen them before, but they're looking directly into the camera, and they're smiling. Marcus is still missing. His truck is still in the driveway. His garden is dead now. The last of the tomato plants finally gave up sometime in early December. I sleep with my doorbell camera app open on my phone. I've bought 2 outdoor cameras for my backyard. I check the alley footage every single morning before I do anything else. So far there's nothing. Just raccoons and wind and the occasional car at odd hours. But here is the thing that keeps me awake at 3 in the morning with my heart going too fast. Marcus set up those cameras because he knew something was wrong. He had evidence of it, 6 nights of footage, a figure in the alley, proof that whatever was happening to him was real and not in his head. He had all of that recorded. And he still disappeared, which means the cameras didn't protect him. Watching didn't keep him safe. Whatever was out there in that alley, it didn't care that it was being recorded. It looked right into the lens and smiled. That's what I think about every time I open my camera app now. That maybe surveillance only works if the other person is afraid of being seen. Some people just aren't. If someone in your life starts putting up cameras, starts asking if you have cameras, starts going quiet in ways they never used to, don't let them tell you they just tired. Don't go back inside. Stay out there and ask the question they're too scared to say out loud. Because the worst thing I ever did was believe that it was probably nothing.